Welcome everyone to the Microsoft 365 Adoption User Group for February, starting off the new year, which is rather exciting. We've had a few changes. You will note that there's been a change in the presentation, and as part of kicking off for the new year and those changes is the joining up of the Brisbane User Group. So we've got the Microsoft 365 Adoption Brisbane User Group that's actually come into play too, which is great to see. That will eventually go hybrid. So if you're looking at the presentation you see on the screen, it is available for you to be able to go and see and download as need be. So I've got both the URL is there, as well as the QR code if you wanted to use the QR code, everyone. The recording will actually go live later on up on YouTube, so you'll be able to watch back over what's new in this space. And let's move our way on. I do record the session, so you will note that it's actually recorded. Not only that, but if we can please stay on mute. So that will help, apart from my speakers, when I get my speakers up and running, if we could stay on mute throughout the session so that we can eliminate some of the noise as we go. If you wanted to, you can actually chat with us, and there's also the formal Q&A button there as well if you want to ask for more questions of the audience when we start to get into our panel. Now, as part of the process, if you do wish to ask a question of the panel, especially for those online, because once we're in the room, we can raise our hand. For those that are online, I need you to also raise your hand. So that way we can kind of ask some questions of the panel as we need to when we get into it. At any point, you can turn on closed captions. So those closed captions will allow you to be able to keep up with me. Put your sneakers on. I am a fast talker. But I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians in the land in which we're meeting from today, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who is here. Okay. I just ask that we adhere by the code of conduct for the user group. We're all in chat and or together in terms of hybrid. That I ask that we be aware of others that are around us, welcoming, respectful, understanding that we all come at this technology from a different standpoint, so that we need to be very open to some of those questions and viewpoints that might come along, be considerate and use appropriate gifs and memes in chat as we go. So who am I? Because we do have a lot of new users as part of the group that joined up. My name is Kirsty McGrath. I run the Adoption User Groups. It's been about 9 years now. I'm the Director of On Point Solutions. I'm a 7 times awarded Microsoft MVP, and all of my contact details and information is in here. I'm a certified change practitioner and a learning facilitator to be able to help you in the adoption change management space. Now, what have I been up to? I always give the, what have I been up to each month? Boy, you could do an awful lot in 2 months, but there might be some familiar faces in here, people that I actually got to hang out with over the last 2 months. We had the AI tour came to Sydney last year, of which we were helping out. I was helping out on the global stand, and I got to see a lot of you there. So it was really fabulous to see a lot of very familiar faces whilst I was on the ground at the tour, hanging out. And then of course Christmas came and went. Me, cake decorator, so I've been making all sorts of things like pavlova Christmas trees, and I did cookies for gifts to hand out. My grandson having lots of fun, and we were enjoying it. I also did for a couple of people's birthday party, I did a fancy cake, saw in the new year in a park. And if you see me covered in, for those in the room, I'm covered in scratches and bruises and things. That's because I've been doing a ton of gardening after all the storms that we had here. It really sort of shook a few things up at my place. So had a bit of fun with the storms over the way. So getting in, now what I've done is I've actually changed it around. Usually I do the what's new kind of at the end, but to allow Sharon, who is on our panel, who is on a train now, to get here in time, I'm going to start with the what's new and then we'll go to the panel. So it's just changed up a little in terms of the order. Now, in the release notes around what's new to ACM, of course, the flavour of the month at the moment is Copilot and agents. And so there's a lot of new content and information that's actually out there around that. So I'll walk you through what you're going to find. Now, there is a new adoption site that's been put up there around Microsoft security. It is very focused, though, on the technical. There's nothing in there. It's like, even in the presentation that you download, there's literally one page in terms of the end user journey out of the 40, 50, 60 odd pages that you're going to find in there. So it's really not focused on that. It is focused more on the overarching security. I've gone through all the links and the clicks down the bottom, and through all of those, it's not actually about that end user and what you would do and or support for them. Not at this point anyway. Of course, we've had that big news that we've got, Microsoft 365 Copilot app. We've got the name change as well as the URL change. So if you do have training content and information or, presentations out there, and you've actually got a URL that says the Microsoft365.com, and you've got it physically written in your training, I would highly recommend to make the change, because it actually has had a URL change. So those things come into play. Not only that, but the icon. So I've had to swap out a lot of screenshots through my training presentations, because there's lots of changes to the name, like Copilot Gallery now, from what it used to be in terms of the prompting space. It's now the gallery, and so there's a lot of screenshots and changes that are actually happening right now across the content. Now, when it comes to the app, there's the free chat that's come into play. Now, that free chat that's just included as part of the license, it's only about the chat component. It's not about it embedding into your application. So it's not over in, that Outlook, as in, you can use it physically in your emails or to schedule a meeting or in your Word document. So it's just purely about the chat component. And not only that, but it's also about supplying agents. But that's a metered cost, so it depends on how much you're actually using it. I've put some information in here to be able to help and support you. And if you're on the Copilot page, Caruana has done a 60-second explanation around, what does it mean, the Microsoft 365 Copilot to the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So that's a good little video to have a look at. There is a whole new chat and agent starter kit that's actually been supplied. Now, inside that kit, there is a lot of really good information actually from a change perspective. So a few things to be able to help and support around the chat and agent, including training presentations. There's, I've got this, it's all just a little small on the screen now because I've got it on a different screen than I usually would. But go through and have a look at some of the resources that you can download. I think I have a few things up a little bit ahead. Not only that, but there are some new scenarios that have come out for the Microsoft chat as well as agents. You will note that it actually says, so you'll see Microsoft Copilot only. Okay, so it does tell you Copilot only, and it also says it over in the explanation and description. It will say Copilot only. That means it's just the chat side of it, okay? So just Copilot, not the other functionality. You'll also see the main ones that I'm seeing around agents. So there's a couple of scenarios around agents. They are really kind of sitting in that IT help desk. There's one or two scattered throughout that you'll actually find in the descriptor underneath your scenarios if you go and have a look. But there are some new scenarios in there. Not only that, but I loved, and if you're connected with me on LinkedIn, you would have noted that I actually put out the Copilot Journey Kit. So that Journey Kit has some really amazing information in there. It's got weekly email templates and daily email templates. There's an infographic in there as well as a badge if you've actually completed the journey. Now, in that Journey Kit, when you go and download it, what I particularly loved was there was 30 days of emails. Something new each day around Copilot that you can actually send out from an adoption perspective. Gold. I mean, to have something like that is really valuable. There's other content in there, the email templates that you'll also find. There is a 6 weeks worth of content in terms of getting yourself started across the various topics, and then there's the 1 day, one a day that you can do on top of it. There's other, how are you going to do it? What does it look like to run? There's some guidance in there in terms of the presentations to be able to support you as well. In the scenarios, some of the new scenarios that have gone out is in Copilot around accessibility. So we've seen a whole heap go out there and presentations that you can actually download to support you across accessibility. What I like about it is a lot of those accessibility features are actually relevant for the everyday user as well. Things to speed you up and make it a little easier. So go and have a look if you haven't. I love on the page, when it comes to the success kit, the team are now putting a change log directly on the page to tell us what's changing inside those kits. Because if you're doing the download regularly, going to go, is there something new? Is there something new? It's very hard to know. Sometimes we'll see it in the release, when you're looking at those release notes a little bit earlier, but not always the best of explanations. So the fact that they're now physically putting it on the page. If you are looking at and trying to find the full kit download like we used to have, I am not finding it there anymore. I actually did a big trawl through trying to find the success kit as a one big download. It wasn't there. It seems to now be broken out into individual pieces. So it could be it's getting some updates. Inside the success kit, there is a few things that are in there in terms of training and some of the other content around the user engagement. And there's a couple of things that are a little bit old still, and I know that they've been updated, so I've pushed that on to the team and said, can we please fix a few of these, okay? Because it's got a bit bigger than it used to be. So inside the new success kit, you're going to find that there's actually, it's not really the success kit anymore, it's the success page. Okay, because it's not the kit download. You have there engage your users, and underneath the engage your users, there is some new content to be able to support you when it comes to this work. So you'll actually see in here, what I particularly love is the Copilot Promptathon. Now, I've been running these Promptathons for Microsoft. The kit's pretty good in terms of some that's in there. I take it a little bit further, I suppose, and when I'm doing Promptathons, it's usually about a 3/4 of a day program. And what's a Promptathon? Heard a hackathon? It's pretty much similar to doing that hackathon. Okay, so it's bringing people together, showing them how to master prompting, and then they get together in groups and then they come up with a good prompt that they think will work. They've got to actually play with it, get it working, and then you can do competitions and present it back. And there can be winners. So it gives you a whole kit of how to run it as an event as well. So it's quite comprehensive. It's got the template that they can actually fill out. That's all in there. So you'll see the launch kit. Another one is the Copilot Chat User Training Guide. So if you want to start training people, if you've got 365 and it's now just rolling out Copilot Chat to everyone and they're all a little confused about what this is and how they can use it, they actually have built a training presentation deck that you can go and grab a hold of and extend on it yourself if you wish to. The other one is there's a handout around agents in Copilot as well. So these are some of the kind of the latest pieces that have gone into that kit. So inside that Promptathon kit that we were talking about, you'll start to see how to get business value, how to run the class. There's also, depending on where you click on the link, and this is sometimes the frustration around the downloads that we do, there's also an overview, a Promptathon overview presentation, and it's not in this kit, it's actually out and on another page. So you might do a little bit of clicking around. I have put some of the stuff in here as well. Okay, but inside that content, you start to get a bit of an idea of what's there. What I found, and it was well down the bottom of one of the presentation, was a link in there to the big book of prompts. And this is 47 pages of prompts. It's fabulous in terms of a scenario. I would highly recommend going in and pulling down that big book of prompts. Just if you're using Copilot at all, there's some really cool stuff in there around what you could do or how you could actually do it as a bit of value, okay? So inside the Success Kit, when it comes to a new one, this Copilot Agent Starter Kit. So there's a starter kit that's come out around agents, and in there is things like the chat handout. Now it is a 2-pager effectively, but it's one big long page. It looks like that, so that infographic, you know, you get those really big long ones. So it's a 1-pager. I've broken it into 2 so that you can actually see it as a bit of a handout. But inside the chat user training guide, there's a couple of things I've said you might need to the team, you might need to update in there. So if you're on the Success Kit site, it is this one here, the new Chat and Agent Starter Kit that you can go and download now. A lot of content's been pushed out really fast. They're moving a lot quicker. Ordinarily, we wouldn't get this kind of content. It'd be 3 months later or 4 months later, and we've already created our own. So the fact that they're moving faster is fabulous. Okay. So now we've also got, in terms of that kit, something else that I particularly like. And yes, you do, Chanel, the presentation is all available for everyone. So the Copilot Chat User Training Guide, in there, there's some really good content. One of them I particularly liked was just this simple start page of getting to know the interface. There's a lot of great content to be able to walk the end user through. There's a little bit of marketing kind of stuff speak that you could potentially pull and or customize for your organization as you need to. There's a new site around agents in Microsoft 365 where a lot of this content is also sitting, not just under the Success Kit. It's its own page now, which has got not only kind of that getting started from the end user perspective, but it's also got the IT side of it on the site as well. One of the things that's actually come up was, how to be a facilitator in meetings. There's a new link around that in terms of automating note-taking for meetings, as well as automating and having that note-taking in chat as well, and being a facilitator in chat. So I'm liking those two new links. When it comes to putting things up in your FAQs and or in your training, it will help and support you. There is a new SharePoint Agents Adoption Guide. It's a 34-page guide that's actually gone out. Ton of content in there. A lot of it is a little on the technical, but not deep diving on the technical in terms of setup, because it's merely meant to be more of that plug and play type thing. So one I'd recommend, if you're not sure what it is, work your way through and go and have a look. So inside that guide, it's got some really good end user content. It's got a click through demo. So this demo here, I think, is of real value that you can actually supply if you wanted to, if you're trying to help those within your organizations get up to speed on how you could potentially do a SharePoint agent. There's a full comms kit, and I'll come through some of the other stuff there, as well as just getting started and deep diving in a little bit more. There are business use cases in there too, and plenty of support and video and things to help you out. Now, I spoke about some of this content last year, so I'm just putting it in as a reminder, because inside of a lot of this information in Kit is the FAQs, for example, the use cases that I just touched on, and the help and learning. So I'll just touch on it again for you, I won't dive into it. But the communications kit. Look, I do like the fact that we got the communications kit in there. I don't like the fact that, when it comes to the email, that we actually didn't get the email. It's just, it's a presentation. It's got words in it. You can copy and paste it and put it into your own format. The downside is normally we'd have sort of an actual email, and it'd have logos or whatever and information across the top and making it really pretty for you in its layout. You're going to have to do that yourself, guys. It's potentially, because you'll see here, most of this is actually about intranet articles. So there's intranet articles, but these ones here also have email. So where are our emails, guys? I'll pass that feedback on to them. It's great in terms of communication. It's really more of a guidance, things you can copy and paste out of, okay? There is a quick start guide in there. It is one big, long presentation slide. It looks like, it's those two A4 pages effectively that have been joined together. So there is a new learning series that has actually come out. There are 18 videos in the learning series when it comes to SharePoint agents. Now, this is coming off the back of an Ask Me Anything that's available, and I'll talk about that a little bit more soon. Okay. There's another SharePoint Agents customer series. So if you want to see some of the customer stories, there are 3 of them. So there are these 3 here. This one up the top is the AMA, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit shortly. Okay. In that learning series as well, there's another 6 videos in terms of the SharePoint learning series, not just the agents and all that. They've created a new SharePoint learning series. It's brand new as well to be able to help us. Okay. The AMA, and what actually happened is there was an AMA, and it was 3 weeks ago, I think it was. There is a blog that's out there. There's a whole heap of videos that came in as a part of it to be able to help and support you when it comes to AI and how it works across SharePoint. If you're going and watching that particular AMA and the recording from the AMA, The first, I suppose, it's around about half of the video is with Jared and walking through and what does it look like and explanations, and the other half is the AMA. Okay, so the first one is that concept to creation to impact and talking about the story of. The AMA is then with Caruana and Rob towards the end, where they're having a bit of a chat and talk and that sort of thing. So if you're having a look at it, you'll need to. And I've put the links in here so that you can jump directly to it if you wish to. Okay. There is, and the picture has dropped off here, apologies, but there was from the site, when you go in and you have a look online, Microsoft have actually got their site with all of their stories on it in terms of AI. One of them is the Bank of Queensland, and in there it was showing how they actually managed to get analysts using AI. They did a test group, they did analysts who got taught how to use Copilot and got stuck into it, and then the second one was actually, they didn't actually have AI, and they showed that the analysts that were using AI were 51.8% faster, and the accuracy in the information that they actually provided was extremely high quality, over the top of their fastest analysts that they actually had. And that is something to take note of when it comes to this particular story with the Bank of Queensland. Some interesting information. Another one that came out, so if you go online and you start to have a look at the content that's actually available, you'll see in there, one of them is about the search engine mindset, because we're teaching it as like a search engine rather than a assistant to be able to support us, and this is about the behavioural change. So it was a really good article that actually came out to be able to support from the work lab. Okay, so if you're looking in all the work lab, and they regularly bring out content in the work lab. So that is both of them. That's this one here you'll find in the work lab, and this one as well, two that I would highly recommend. There is a new adoption site for Clipchamp. There's not a massive amount of information in there as yet, but it has actually been built. As we see, I suppose it's used and utilised a little bit more. And, once we hit over in Seattle, I'll be in Seattle in March. Once I hit over in Seattle, I'm going to be harassing them and going, where's all our content to help promote Clipchamp and roll it out as part of a business. So we'll have a look and see what comes of that conversation. Okay. Now, we've also got the ability in here, there's a whole series that's coming up, and I'll speak about the Master Series when it comes to Viva. There is a good blog that's in there about introducing the community experts in Viva Engage, and how you can actually bring community experts in to be able to support your community in their journey when it comes to learning, when it comes to getting the right answers, for example. So I'd go and have a read of that, because it will help you be a learning organisation by creating people that become community experts as well. Okay. Now, the Master Series is coming up very soon. The Day in the Life guides, there are some new Day in the Life guides when it comes to accessibility. So it's not just the Copilot. You'll see some. There are a few that have been around for a little while in terms of teams, but there are some new ones that are now in there as well, which I am particularly liking, and they're the Copilot ones, which we haven't actually seen before. Okay, so those are the Day in the Life of. They're a little different. You can download them as well when it comes to the Day in the Life of, how do they actually use it throughout the day? It's that whole process of how they use it. Okay. The champion calls that run each month. Now, we didn't have one for December with going into Christmas, but the January one has actually happened, and it's about the chat and channels experience in Teams. So you've had that merging together of chat and channels into the one chat icon. It walks through that. It's got a lot of the what's new. It's run by Caruana. So you will see Caruana and Heather and Jessie and the team. They'll all come together. If you are not a champion and you're not actually registered on the champion, you can go in. Anyone can go in and become a champion. Highly recommend that you help those that are champs within your business join the champs community, and they can also just watch the recordings, because there are 2 time zones that it's running in. The next one is coming up fairly soon. So you'll see the next one is on February 25th if you actually want to join that session yourself. Okay, just go register, and you can put the time zone of value for you in there. Okay. There's the Mondays at Microsoft. Now, Caruana and Heather will sometimes have somewhat technical content that actually comes into that. There's still some value in some of the content that you're actually going to see throughout. You'll see at the moment, it just says Mondays at Microsoft. But there are other ones that are coming in, trustworthy AI. Now, they do dive in, for example, into both that high level end user journey, the governance compliance, but they also go into the technical as well, so depending on which you're focused in. Now, the masterclass series in terms of Viva Engage, they have coming out 6 sessions in the masterclass series. Number 1 has actually already been done in terms of admin and governance when it comes to Viva Engage. Fabulous session. You can go and register for the others. They do have 2 time zones, and the cool part about that is it's 10 o'clock in the morning for us, yay, instead of, always we're often joining at 2 or 3 in the morning and or watching the recording later and don't get as involved. But there is a 10 a.m. session. So number 1 has actually gone live now on YouTube as the masterclass. That one's on the governance side of things. There's a lot more that's actually coming. There's ones around training. There's plenty there in terms of the series. I do particularly like the Work Smarter blog series that's actually coming out in the hub. The good part about this is you can actually push this out in your own comms in terms of helping people to utilise the technology they've got at their hands when it comes to M365. It's giving some really good guidance around, well, what's going on or how could you? So, for example, this one is around productive meetings when it comes to Copilot and Teams. And these are 2 Copilot ones that have just come out. And then how to use Copilot Chat for efficiency. So there's plenty that are in there. They're just the 2 kind of latest ones that I'm just popping out for you. On the customer hub, so there's a whole customer hub that's available. There is a new one that's come in. It's called the 365 Copilot Fundamentals. Now, what's actually sitting under there is content we've seen before, and I've spoken about it previously, but they're dropping information in now underneath these banners to be able to help businesses and help your users. So these are the 3 sessions that I've talked about over the last, I think it would probably the last 6 months or so. It was back last year. So there were 3 in there in that series, and included in those 3 are 3 presentations as well on working your way through driving the user enablement and transforming. So there's some, there's fundamentals in getting started. So some good content in there. Also in the hub is lots of upcoming sessions, of which all these fundamentals and other things are in there. Things like, the art of, it's really reduced down the quality inside. I'm tempted to just flip over to present on the desktop and whether it might be a better quality for you all. Hang on a second, I'm just going to, because it really seems to be low quality coming through Teams. I'm not sure if it's that way for everyone else. Let me just go find, gone too far. And I might just swap over to present my desktop instead. Let's see if this is a little better for everyone, because I know I'm not seeing things. Let's go share screen, and I'll just maximize. There we go. That's hopefully a little better. It was really quite blurry up on the screen here. Okay, so then that inside the customer series, when you start to have a look at it, downside is I'm not going to see chat now, so I'll have to come back to you in a bit, guys. So inside here you can see the art of the prompt, empowering your users and boosting productivity, for example, value. There's team sessions in terms of calling, phones, lots of really good ones that you can actually register in. Now, most of these are what we class as simulive. So if you've ever heard of what a simulive is, it's effectively you get on a live webinar, they play a video, and then they have moderators and people there to be able to answer questions, okay? That's kind of what a simulive is, and a lot of these are being run in a simulive scenario, okay? There are different time zones, so you can pick and choose your time zone when you go into the hub, so we're running, and they're also in different languages as well if you go into the customer hub, okay? Now, in terms of the what's new, I know in the past I used to go through the what's new to Microsoft 365, but it got to the point it was nearly 2 hours worth of content. I have stopped, guys. Sorry, I know I've got a lot of you that are going to go, no. But I want to focus on the ACM stuff for you because they're getting more and more. With Caroline in charge of a lot of that team and the way they're driving it forward, there's so much great content in there now. But what I am still doing for you is I'm going to touch on some of the stuff that's actually out there in terms of sort of what's new or where you're going to find it. Go and have a look at the latest blogs, for example. So you've got the Microsoft 365 blog. One of those that's in there you're going to find is this, Frontline. If you're dealing with Frontline, one I would actually recommend to go and read is around the Frontline piece, okay? When it comes to the Copilot, you'll see there's those Work Smarter productivity tips that I was talking about. They've all gone live. Go and have a look at the what's new to Copilot, okay? So that's all listing out in here. I particularly like the meeting scheduling inside, Outlook meetings now that's come into play. There's a few things that's new. Inside some of the blogs and under the Copilot blog, there are a couple of core things that I am going to pull out for you. One, some of the usage trends using the Copilot analytics, because we are sitting in that ACM space, things like, what's in the change, what's in the training, what's in the analytics to try and make sure that we're getting the return on our investment and measuring. We've got to have that baseline measurement, and so these then become really important, okay? So there is some of the usage and usage intensity that's flowing through. If you don't have access to the reporting functionality that sits in the admin center, I would highly recommend that you actually speak with your team and get that access. They can actually give you a report reader access to be able to go in, and there's also the user enablement specialist access that comes into play in terms of the adoption reports for you to be able to go and look at these reports, okay? So this is now gone out there so you can actually see, what the various thresholds, and you can compare, certain groups as to, what they're doing. In the Viva Insights blog, I'm going to bring up the content for some of this in a minute because I'm going to try and keep you up to date around the Viva Insights because this is all our measurement tools and things that we actually work on. I would recommend going in, the leaders' use and how they're doing it in terms of Viva Insights, for example, and going and having a little bit of a read. So one of them that's in there is the top 10 tips for measuring your AI transformation. So those top 10 tips. Now, I don't know if anyone knows Lorian and is connected with Lorian. Lorian Strand actually put out a blog around the 4 ways to be able to build your own usage adoption reports, because Copilot, the usage adoption reports have got some gaps. So it's what can you do and how can you actually do it? He's always a bit of tongue-in-cheek when he's saying a lot of things, and he's very good at pointing out the gaps. One I would recommend going and watching. The Academy. Okay, so the Academy has actually had a bit of an update. So your IT team can actually duplicate the Academy, and they can then put on their own organisational preferences and priorities to it. But it still will continue to receive the updates when they do the duplication of it, by the way, okay? In the Viva Learning blog, there's a couple of new blog pieces that have gone in there. Transforming learning engagement, this one here, and then what is in the releases and that roadmap for the Q4. Now, a lot of these blogs, when you go to the link to whatever blog, whether it's SharePoint or Teams or whatever, we've always got the what's new for that month. One I would recommend you go and actually watch and read so that you can get yourself underway. This was one in particular, the first one that I just circled, was that transforming learning engagement. And what they actually did in terms of the challenge and the solution they did as a story when it came to using Viva Learning. And they found that they actually had a 3,000 increase in terms of the mandatory learning completions. Go and read it, one to recommend. Okay. The Viva blog, if you go in, this is the overarching Viva blog, have a look. The insider in terms of what's new. There are a lot of our apps that don't have their own blog channel, by the way. They just come in underneath the insider blog. So for example, if you're looking for kind of the what's new to PowerPoint, you are only going to find it inside the insider blog. Okay. This is often things that are in beta testing and getting ready to roll out. Sometimes they'll have it's rolled out and you're going to find it in the Insider blog. So you can come in and you can actually filter. So you'll see, if you want to filter by certain content, it is in here that you're going to find what's new. The Microsoft Forms blog. Now, it's been a little bit since we've actually had some new content, but I am liking some of the, gauging employee satisfaction. There's 2 that have come out just recently. Now, the Excel forms and the way that we worked in Excel forms, there has been some changes, which I talked about last year in one of the previous groups. Have a look at the OneDrive blog. There's been some updates in terms of OneDrive and what they're actually doing, all to come into alignment more and more with Copilot. If you've got OneDrive and you've got the app on your phone, it's actually had quite a big update. It's only just been a recent update that's come out in terms of OneDrive on your phone. So if you're taking and you're doing training on how to work on the go with documents from your mobile and you've got screenshots, they've completely changed, guys. You're going to have to update that. Okay, so big changes have gone on there. Some of the what's new, we haven't yet had the pit stop for January. It has not rolled out yet. Normally we'd have it before the end of the month. That hasn't actually hit yet. So we've still only got the December one at this point. Okay. In the Teams blog, go have a look at what's new into Teams, although it's slowing down just a little now that the Teams Classic and New is updated. It has slowed down. Planner has actually had a few things happening in there. So there's a new board view that's going on, and they've even got a whole list of what's happening and what's new. Because there's, I suppose, lots of alignment coming in with Pro, we're starting to see some shifts and changes in the planner space. It was very quiet for some time, but now it's kicking off again. Go and have a look at Excel. Excel's always got some great content going on. Now, the foundational user training, this is a new category that's come into play on Microsoft in terms of the Microsoft Learn to be able to help and support. In here, come back, let's just zoom. It doesn't want me to zoom in. Let's try again. Are you going to let me zoom? No, it doesn't want me to zoom today. Fine. Okay, going too far. Doesn't want to zoom for me. Sorry. So, in here, if you go and have a look, all these foundational type courses, I do like this new filter. It didn't have it previously, especially when we've got our end users. Our end users are often not coming at this from a technical standpoint. So I do like the fact that you can potentially put a link on your own SharePoint sites to some of this foundational learning. And now that it's all grouped together in one spot, it makes it so much easier to try and find it in massive lists of information. Don't forget there are community day calls out there. Unfortunately, most of them are at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I can't do much about it, sorry, but if you'd like to join them, these are some of the community calls that are available and you can see them all on the site. Don't forget you can go into the community answers site to be able to get support if you need to, if you've got questions around a particular product to be able to have answered. Back up, just to double check. Same thing.
Just some good funny comments in there.
Yeah,
but
just
I didn't see any.
No, I didn't see much more. If there's no more comments or questions that you want to ask of the panel on how to potentially tackle any of it, we'll go into some of the final stuff. Thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you coming along and joining us in the session. And I will just do some of the closing stuff. There's lots of events that are available online for you to be able to join. A cool one is the Copilot Adoption Strategies. You can actually join that around the sharing success stories. It is at night time. At least it's not during the middle of the night, but it is late at night, so you can join that one. There's lots of great community day events that are out there. These are conferences that are happening all over the world. I am at the Digital Workplace Conference in March. I'm going over to New Zealand. I'll be talking Change Champs. So if you are joining us from New Zealand, please feel free to come along to the Digital Workplace group. Now, I did do a very quick update of my wheel with the logo in the middle. So, it probably needs a few other tweaks. Please feel free to send through. I have put it up on the SharePoint for you to be able to download it with the new icon in the middle if you are wanting it. The recording will go live on the Adoption YouTube channel, so that will actually go up there. Please feel free, if you just subscribe, then you'll get that notification of when it comes through. Okay, so that's the Adoption channel. The other thing is I'm always answering questions alongside Christian and all of his teams. If there's anything in particular you would like to know, we're there as a community group answering lots of different questions. I think there's way more than 181 videos now. I think it's 187 or so. All the adoption resource links. Now, as a bit of a New Year's resolution, my New Year's resolution was focus. And so there's a few things that I'm doing around focus. So a lot of these links that I'm putting in the presentation, all these resource links and where do I find information and all of the above, I'm building an adoption site for you. So as an MVP, there's technically the covering page and the Copilot page at this point. If you go and have a look, it will evolve. There's like 60 odd pages that I'm going to be doing. So there's a lot. At the moment, they're just the two. So all of the Copilot content, for example, because it's scattered, Microsoft have got it far and wide. Where's the training, the links, and they don't do third-party type links to, there's some great user groups around Australia, for example, and the globe and information. And so I'm bringing it all together. It's quite a long page. It's grouped into resources for change champions, all the measurement resources and training resources. And I will be doing a very similar thing for each of the pages as they go live to try and help you. So it's a bit of a library of content all coming together. So that's my project. There are lots of great communities that are actually out there to join. Microsoft have their GitHub community that Elizabeth has put out there in terms of, what other user groups could you join. So these are some of the user groups that are out there to be able to join, and including Daniel, who's here at the moment, online, Daniel, and Chris, yours is here too. All of those links are available from previous sessions, and we will come back on the 4th of March, and we're doing a 4 p.m. time slot, so it has been a bit of a shift to try and allow for hybrid, for people to be able to come along, and we will build it over time. This presentation is available for you, so you can actually do a scan of the code so that you can actually grab it if you wish to. I will leave that up there for a moment. And I'm just going to come back in, see if there are any questions. And if there isn't, then I will let everyone go. Let's come in and just have a quick look just in case. Nothing else. No. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate you coming along and supporting. And we will see you again next month. Don't forget the recording will go live on YouTube. Bye all. Oh, the wheel, my infographic, yes. Yeah. It's called the Wheel of Fortune, is what everyone calls it.
Good luck with that.
Yes, good luck with that. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, see. Just like the way we
grab the QR code.
Oh.
Just take a photo of and grab the QR code. You'll be able to download it. You'll get a copy of it. Thank you, Jacob, Danielle, Cheryl, Glennis.
Very good. Very, very insightful.
Okay. I'll just end the meeting.
Change manager, yeah. So I'm a Microsoft 365 MVP, but my job is normally change management.